Hi guys, I'm Emily and I'm really excited to be talking to you guys today about self-talk and confidence. First, I just wanted to start out by saying that what we're going to be talking about today is going to be really important not only for you guys as basketball players to use on the court, but also off the court. It's going to really enhance the way you feel about yourself all the time if you're able to get really good about implementing the things that we talk about. So first, I want to start out with positivity. I feel like everyone generally has a sense that they are a pretty positive person. They feel good about themselves. You guys are at a great place in your season. But it's really important to maintain the aspect of when you talk to yourself and when you talk to others, especially on your team, that it's a more reframing of the statement from don't do this to you can do this. So like an example for you guys would be you get into the free throw line and you're saying, don't miss this free throw. What's really going to help is if you change that and say, you know how to make this free throw, you know your relaxation techniques, and you can do this. That's going to be really helpful for yourself, which we'll get to a little bit more later when we get into positive self-talk, but it's going to be really helpful for your teammates as well. And then I want to also note that something that can get confusing with positivity is that you always have to be positive all of the time, and that's not necessarily true. I mean, it would be great if that were the case and that were the world that we live in, but I understand that you need to have that critical feedback in order to improve. So what I want to make sure we do in the future is use what I like to call the sandwich approach when giving critical feedback. So basically what happens is the captain, the coach, just your other teammate or your friend is talking to someone about what they can improve on, and in doing so, sandwich that improvement in between a compliment, in between a critique. Two positive aspects and a critique. So what it would look like was, hey, really nice job relaxing and hitting that free throw during the game. Maybe next time just work a little bit harder to get back on defense. And also really nice job recovering and stealing that ball. So it's you still have the critical feedback, you found somewhere to improve, and you've also made that note in your mind that they were positive, I can still do this, you weren't knocked down in the process, and you have somewhere that you can improve upon. So next we're going to get into confidence. I'm sure all of you guys have heard about confidence every day in your daily lives, and all have some different feeling about what confidence is. So take some time, jot down what you think confidence is on your piece of paper. Also, picture in your head someone you think of as extremely confident. I want you to write down why they seem to exude that confidence and also what they do best in your mind because of that confidence. Every single athlete will be different, so I want to keep that in mind this whole time, that confidence is really a perception, both of the observer and of the individual. So the definition of confidence that I like is a trust and a belief in a situation. So going into a situation and trusting that you know what to do, that means you're confident. And in sport, actually, I like the term self-efficacy also to be used sort of interchangeably because it's the belief in yourself as an individual to pursue whatever task you are trying to pursue. So let's say you're trying to shoot a free throw. If you have self-efficacy, you believe in yourself to get up to the line and make that free throw. And then also for you guys as a team, because basketball is such a team sport, if you have collective efficacy, that means that you guys believe in your ability as a team to work together and accomplish your goals, whatever those may be. Whether it's winning or improving from your last game, you guys have collective efficacy. You know you can do it. Generally, you're more confident in familiar situations than in unfamiliar situations. I'm sure everyone's felt that way going to the free throw line at a home game as opposed to going to the free throw line at an away game, maybe at your biggest rival. Because of this, there are some things that you can work on, and Albert Bandura does a really good job of outlining ways to improve your self-efficacy. First, I want to start off with a quote from him. In order to succeed, people need a sense of self-efficacy, struggle together with resilience to meet inevitable obstacles and inequities in life. So what this is really saying is everything's not going to be easy, but having the ability to believe in yourself and learning from that is what's going to help you overcome your obstacles. So those self-efficacy improvement techniques that I was talking about a second ago are performance accomplishments, vicarious experiences, verbal persuasion, physiological state, emotional state, and imagery. So if you guys want to take a second to write those down, I'm going to go into a little detail. So performance accomplishments, vicarious experiences, verbal persuasion, physiological state, emotional state, and imagery. So what are those? Performance accomplishments. Those are going to be the most effective in the short term in getting all of you guys to feel confident. So your performance or accomplishments are you as the individual athlete, or if you guys want to, as the team, sitting down and thinking about your best performance, your peak performance, looking back on that performance, going through it step by step, and just believing in your ability to do it again. Your vicarious experiences are those which are the reason why I had you write down someone you think of as confident earlier in this session. So your vicarious experiences are most useful when you're watching someone who's in your similar ability perform the same task that you are. So someone who you think is at your same skill level, still doing the same thing that you are, or something that you're struggling with, and then watching them succeed will inherently make you feel more able to succeed after watching them perform. I also had you write down someone you feel confident with. I'm sure a couple of you wrote down a couple professional players. And the reason why I do that is because you can still look at other vicarious experiences that aren't necessarily at your skill level, also as something to aim for. This is where I am, this is what I can do, this is where I want to be, and look at that to see where you can go. Verbal persuasion is most likely to come from a coach, a captain, a teammate, or yourself through positive self-talk, which we'll talk about later. Verbal persuasion can come as a motivational speech, or just like a pat on the back, you can do it, or just some inherent sense that other people believe that you can do what you're trying to do. Your physiological state and your emotional state are pretty similar, but your physiological state is how you as an athlete recognize where your body's at before competition or before practice or anything of the like, and you assessing that state and then working with those feelings to improve your performance. So basically what that means is if you notice before a huge game, you're really nervous, your heart's racing, knowing what that means for you. For some people, anxiety can be really helpful towards facilitating a good performance. They need that pressure, they need that drive. For others, it might actually make performance worse. So knowing where you are on that scale is going to be really important in terms of increasing your self-efficacy, because if you're able to control your own physiological state, it'll make a huge impact on your performance. The same goes for your emotional state. If you notice you're really angry, you're really upset, or really happy even, noticing what that is for you, and then taking that into your performance so that you can do the best you can. Just like for the physiological state, you can do relaxation techniques, you can do energizing techniques. It's going to be different for everyone, and that's something that I want everyone to keep in mind throughout this whole session. Each of you are going to be completely different. And this also speaks to the fact that confidence, positive self-talk, self-efficacy, mental toughness, all of those things can be learned. I think a lot of the times confidence is seen as something you either have or you don't, and that's simply not the case. There can be a player who plays extremely well and has no confidence, but just had a really good game and just understood what needed to be happening. And there can be an extremely confident player who doesn't play that well. A lot of the times, especially, I hear people referring to cocky players as the ones that are going to play the best, and that's just not the case. I think a lot of the times what happens with that is that, sure, sometimes cockiness can breed confidence, such as last year there was an article that came out where if before your interview you stood in that Superman pose, and this pose will send the hormones to your body that you are confident and you can do this, because everyone equates this with Superman, a superhero. So why wouldn't you standing like this make you inherently more confident? The same goes for when you walk up to the free throw line. How are you going to assess someone who walks up, dribbles the ball, and walks up like this, kind of looks at the basket scared? Are you going to think that they're going to make that shot? Or are you going to think the person who's going to make the shot is the one who walks up, shoulders back, staring down the basket, ball in the hand? They're probably going to make the shot more likely than the person that looks nervous. So then, back to the self-efficacy improvements. Imagery was the last one. That's probably something we'll work on more specifically and in-depth at another time. But basically just being able to look at your past experiences, look at other people's experiences, and not in the moment, or if you can get to the point where you can use imagery while you're playing basketball, that's great. But not in the moment, being able to sit and think about the performance and actually feel yourself going through the process. Being able to do that will actually increase your confidence in future performance. So as I was saying, mental toughness is something that I think sometimes gets confused with cockiness, but it's also really important towards gaining that confidence. Mental toughness takes awareness and introspection, and awareness is something that we're going to start talking about with the positive self-talk. So in terms of mental toughness, I think it's more your ability to understand and adapt your situation, given what you know about yourself from your physiological state, your emotional state, what you've heard throughout the day. Mental toughness is being able to focus on the situation at hand, concentrate on what you need to do, and just get out there and do it regardless of the situation, so that you can adapt to home games or away games or rowdy fans or whatever is going on in your life on that day. Similarly to mental toughness, self-talk also requires an extreme amount of awareness and positivity. Self-talk, I'm sure we all do it every day. We'll get down on ourselves for something, especially when we make a mistake, but it involves awareness of recognizing that you're saying something that is counterproductive to your performance and then changing that. Like I said at the beginning, changing the don't miss this free throw to the you can make this free throw is going to make all the difference in your performance. A couple ways that you can improve your self-talk are by retrospection. So by looking back on your past performances and seeing what you were thinking to yourself at that time and how that worked for you. Again, imagery, which we'll work on more some other time. And self-talk logs, which I think are extremely helpful. And I handed out to you guys at the beginning of this session. So what I'm going to have you guys do after we talk today is, so here's just a little example of a little mini log where I want you guys to realize your current thoughts and then switch them to positive thoughts. So your current thoughts, I've broken it up into before practice, I say to myself, and I feel. So realizing that emotional state and self-talk. So before practice, warming up, water break, after you make a mistake during practice, after you do something well, and then again after practice. So for each of those, you write down what you said to yourself, what your self-talk was, and how you felt in that moment. And then I'm sure for some of you before practice or even during practice, some of those statements are already going to be in the positive form. So you can keep those in the next column. But then in the instance that, let's say during your water break, you don't have something necessarily positive that you said to yourself, or you're feeling tired or whatever it may be, in this next column, you're going to switch that thought to saying, I'm feeling tired to I'm getting stronger. And that's going to make a huge difference for you to use every day in practice, and something I'd like you guys to work on after we're done today. Also, in pointing out positivity, I'm going to give you guys little jars as well as this instruction sheet, even though I'm sure you will remember. But each of you is going to get a mason jar with your name on it. And there's going to be a ton of paper in your locker room as well as pens. So every day before practice, I'm going to have you guys pick a name out of the jar. And then from that name, you're going to write a positive statement for the person whose name you picked, as well as a positive statement for yourself. So these positive affirmations have to be something performance-based or even team bonding-based, like if you saw them really act positively toward another member of the team, that's going to be helpful as well. So what's going to happen is that those are anonymous, obviously not for yourself. You're going to write yourself one and then someone else on your team one. And what will happen then is every day after practice, you will write down your statements for the person. Then every day before practice, you'll go around reading those statements out loud to the rest of the team. They'll still be anonymous, other than the ones you wrote to yourself for yourself. And what this should do is really increase the collective efficacy of the team by focusing on the positive, as well as increase your self-efficacy in yourself by realizing that people on your team see those positive things that are going on with your performance, rather than potentially thinking that everyone only sees the negative. So that'll be really helpful for you guys as well. And then just before we close up, I have a great quote from Dr. Seuss, who I'm sure you guys haven't thought of in a while, but he said, "You have brains in your head and feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose." So I think this really speaks to the confidence and self-talk aspect that we were talking about today. And I think that what's important is that you guys have your skills. You know you're skilled, or you wouldn't be in the position you are today. It's honing the mental side of those skills that I really want to work on with you. And you guys have all of the power within yourself to do that. It's in your head. You got feet on your shoes. You guys can pick whether you're successful or not in any given performance just by being mentally positive and finding a way to find that confidence within yourself and the other members of your team. So thanks for having me today. Nice working with you. If you have any questions, feel free to find me after. Thanks.